Good morning, I'm Kenneth Moten.
And I'm Janae Norman. Here are the top 5 things to know this Tuesday. Number 1, the trade war between the U.S. and China is reaching new heights and impacting stocks.
The U.S. has designated China a currency manipulator after the country's central bank set the Chinese currency at the lowest level in a decade. Overnight, Asian stocks sank lower a day after the worst losses of the year on Wall Street.
President Trump's trade advisor said the markets are, quote, overreacting.
Number 2, the death toll from the mass shootings in Texas and Ohio over the weekend is now 31.
Authorities say the 21-year-old suspect in the El Paso attack got lost after driving from a Dallas suburb and found his way to the Walmart because he was hungry. Sources say he first entered without any weapons, casing the store, and satisfied after seeing more than 1,000 people inside. He returned minutes later with an assault-style rifle.
In Dayton, Ohio, police are still trying to pinpoint a motive in the shooting rampage that left 9 people dead there, including the gunman's sister. Newly released images show people scrambling for cover as the 24-year-old shooter opened fire in the street. One man says he was trying to leave a bar, but the bouncer pushed him out of harm's way just as the shooter was rushing to the door. Police say the shooter had up to 250 rounds in his possession before he was shot by police.
On to number 3 now. Siegfried and Roy are speaking out about the tiger attack that ended their Las Vegas show.
A tiger named Montecore dragged Roy by the neck in 2003, nearly killing him. The duo has always insisted it was a tragic mistake, saying that Roy had a stroke, prompting the 700-pound tiger to lunge while trying to help Roy.
During an exclusive interview with ABC's Deborah Roberts, Siegfried disputes Montecore's trainer, who recently claimed that Roy was to blame for the attack.
Chris Lawrence has come forward now saying
I know
that Roy had not been paying as much attention to the tiger, that he changed the routine that night, that it threw him off, and that Roy essentially was to blame. Was he?
I told you, Roy passed out. He had a stroke in reality. How he can change the routine? He noticed he even was not on stage, he was backstage.
He says the incident did not make them more fearful of tigers.
Number 4, the viral Facebook event called Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop Us All, has now been taken down after more than 2 million people signed up.
Area 51 is located in a classified military base in Nevada where conspiracy theorists believe UFOs are kept. The man who created the post as a joke says Facebook has now removed it, claiming it was a violation of community standards.
And finally, number 5, 2 men in Russia had a very scary moment while taking a nap.
They woke up to find a bear cub, look at this, checking them out as they slept on some grass. As you can see, one man got up and screamed, very startled.
Yeah, it took the other man a few seconds to pop up as the bear walked away.
He said, well, that's not lunch.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. A lot to get to this morning, including our big story, the new information about the 2 mass shootings in Texas and Ohio over the weekend. 31 people have now died.
And here in New York overnight, the Empire State Building was lit up in orange for gun violence awareness. In Ohio, a vigil was held in the hometown of the man who gunned down 9 people in Dayton. Police now say the shooter had up to 250 rounds in his possession.
Meanwhile, the death toll has risen to 22 after the rampage at the Walmart in El Paso, as we learn new information about how lawmakers in Washington may respond.
ABC's Megan Tavrizian begins our coverage from El Paso. Megan, good morning.
Good morning, Janae and Kenneth. This community remains in mourning. There is a memorial set up right behind me, right outside that Walmart where this shooting took place. And people have been coming here to pay their respects day and night.
Overnight, an outpouring of grief in El Paso, as thousands remember the victims of what is now the 7th deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history. According to police, the 21-year-old suspect got lost after driving 10 hours from Allen, Texas, finding his way to this Walmart because he was hungry. Sources say he first entered without any weapons, casing the store, and then, satisfied after seeing more than 1,000 people inside, he returned minutes later with an assault-style rifle. Sylvia Sacedo crawled under the floor with her 91-year-old mother, hiding under a table. She says they're only alive because the shooter turned around after hearing people run past him.
We were praying, she was praying and she was crying and I was holding her hands and I was like, I can't believe she's so calm.
Our David Muir met one survivor at the hospital. Octavio Lizarde's 15-year-old nephew was shot and killed right in front of him.
And he didn't say a word?
No, he didn't talk at all. You could see in his face his intentions.
Alvaro Mina, whose 78-year-old father passed away, says he feels targeted because he's Latino.
We're afraid to go out to Walmart. We're afraid to go out to the street because we feel like we're being hunted. I mean, because our color, our skin color.
This morning, President Trump vowing to take action.
These barbaric slaughters are an assault upon our communities, an attack upon our nation, and a crime against all of humanity.
The president says he supports a so-called red flag law proposed by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, which also has the support of Democrat Richard Blumenthal. It would allow family members or law enforcement to ask a court to remove guns from a person who poses a threat. But the president focused much of his address Monday not on gun background checks, which he had tweeted about earlier, but on mental health and the internet.
Mental illness and hatred pulls the trigger, not the gun.
But critics say other countries also have mental health issues. They say the difference is American access to guns. The American Psychiatric Association agreed, saying, quote, routinely blaming mass shootings on mental illness is unfounded and stigmatizing. Meanwhile, published reports this morning find the Trump campaign used the term invasion when referencing migrants crossing at the border more than 2,000 times in Facebook ads this year. Police say in an online post, the El Paso shooter used that same language, warning of a, quote, Hispanic invasion of Texas.
President Trump plans to visit El Paso tomorrow. His visit is getting mixed reaction from people here. Kenneth and Janae, back to you.
And I think it was the mayor of El Paso who actually said, trying to take politics out of it and saying that the president of the United States wants to come and visit, obviously, during this time of national mourning, and he's offering up resources. Yeah. So he's invited the president. Megan, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
And from there in El Paso, when we know 7 of the victims were Mexican nationals, Mexico's government is considering the El Paso shooting an act of terrorism. The Secretary of Foreign Affairs says they may petition for the extradition of the gunman. Mexico will also be participating in the investigation and trial of the gunman. As we mentioned, 8 Mexicans are among the dead. 6 were injured. On Sunday, Mexico threatened to take legal action against the U.S. for failing to protect its citizens.
In Dayton, Ohio, police are still trying to pinpoint a motive in the shooting rampage that left 9 people dead there, including the gunman's sister.
Newly released images show the chaos. Look at this as people scrambled for cover as the 24-year-old shooter opened fire in the street. One witness, Dylan Arnold, was trying to walk out of a bar, but the bouncer pushed him out of harm's way just as the shooter was rushing to the door.
He stood there. He was just a little off to the side, just getting people in. He kept looking around the corner, his main goal was to get as many people in the club. If he wasn't there, and especially if the officers weren't there, I mean, I know I'd be gone.
So police say the gunman was carrying magazines with up to 200 rounds. He fired at least 41 times before he was shot and killed by officers in just 30 seconds. The shooter's former classmates say he was suspended in high school for making a hit list of students he wanted to kill or sexually assault.
Democrats are calling on Senate Leader Mitch McConnell to end the August recess to work on gun control. The House passed 2 background check bills in February, but they're stalled in the Senate. One of the measures creates new background check requirements for firearm transfers between private parties. The other bill extends the review period for FBI background checks from 3 to 10 days.
And hundreds of protesters gathered outside NRA headquarters in Virginia last night, calling for immediate action to strengthen gun laws. Demonstrators chanted and read the names of those killed in El Paso and Dayton. On Sunday, the NRA tweeted that it will not participate in what it calls the politicizing of these tragedies.
Meanwhile, former President Obama called on Americans to reject language from leaders that feed a climate of fear and hatred and normalizes racist sentiments. He did not mention President Trump's name, however.
And now to Washington and the escalating trade war with China and the growing concern about its effect on the U.S. economy.
Asian markets are sinking after Wall Street's biggest downturn of the year. It came after China decided to tweak its currency.
And now the U.S. Treasury is designating China as a currency manipulator. ABC's Mona Kosar Abdi has the very latest from Washington. Mona, good morning.
Good morning, Janae. Good morning to you, Kenneth. Yes, that's right. So the U.S. Treasury Department has labeled China a currency manipulator. The president has thrown that term around, but now this is an official designation, and that is because overnight the Central Bank of China allowed its currency to drop to the lowest level in over a decade. Now, China blames trade protectionism, essentially saying that they are reacting to President Trump's threat that he was going to impose new tariffs starting September 1st on $300 billion worth of Chinese goods. And that's everything from smartphones that we use, televisions, clothes, toys. But the U.S. says, no, that's not true. They're doing it so that they can gain an unfair competitive advantage in international trade. Whatever the reason, the markets, as you mentioned, reacting overnight. We had the U.S. and Asian stocks plummeting, essentially. And so, this points to the escalating, continuing trade war. Now, it's also important to note that the president has repeatedly said that China will pay these tariffs, and they'll pay billions of dollars in tariffs, which will essentially, he says, go to U.S. farmers that have been targeted by China. But we know that it's U.S. businesses that pay these tax to customs, and then later on, they pass it on to the U.S. consumer. Janae and Kenneth.
Our thanks to Mona there. I appreciate you breaking it down for us. And some other headlines and stories we're watching out for today. President Trump has signed an executive order aimed at turning up the pressure on Venezuela. It expands sanctions already in place by freezing all Venezuelan government assets, blocking Americans and U.S. companies from doing business with President Nicolas Maduro's administration. The move amounts to a full embargo and attempts to bolster efforts to isolate Venezuela on the international stage.
And the Florida man who mailed more than a dozen pipe bombs to prominent Democrats and CNN has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. Cesar Sayoc apologized in court, saying he wishes he could take back what he did. Sayoc's attorney says he was obsessed with President Trump and blamed Democrats for damaging his van, which was plastered with images of Trump. The judge noted although Sayoc hated his targets, he did not design his bombs to explode. And the list of states charging R. Kelly with child sex crimes is growing.
The singer now faces prostitution and solicitation accusations in Minnesota. Prosecutors say he offered a 17-year-old girl money, then sexually assaulted her in 2001. Kelly is being held in New York after pleading not guilty to federal sex crimes last week. He also faces charges in Chicago.
Well, a new study suggests that stress between parents during pregnancy can have a negative impact later in their toddler's behavior.
Researchers in New York, Britain, and the Netherlands have found that prenatal stress in first-time mothers resulted in more tantrums, restlessness, and spitefulness in children by the time they turn 2 years old.
And toddlers whose fathers reported depression or anxiety also had more social and emotional problems. A little boy in Green Bay, Wisconsin is riding like the wind on a brand new bicycle after a bit of a mishap with an NFL player.
It happened just before training camp practice, and it involved an age-old Green Bay tradition of players riding the bicycles of young fans to the practice field. But Houston Texans defensive end J.J. Watt, at nearly 300 pounds, was a bit much for this little boy's bike, and he ended up breaking it.
Yikes. But the good news, nobody was hurt, and Watt has reportedly already bought that young fan a brand new set of wheels.
I'm sure it's real shiny, got a motor on it. It's real
Probably
nice.
Red, too. Coming up, a woman locked under a bus calls 911 from the highway.
How she was trapped and how long she was there. After this. Welcome back. We turn now to that nightmare on a Peter Pan bus between New York and Boston. A woman says she got trapped inside the luggage compartment of that bus.
She called 911 as the bus was driving down the highway, and now the driver is facing criminal charges.
This morning, the harrowing 911 call from a bus passenger who says she was purposely locked inside the luggage compartment of a Peter Pan bus driving down the highway in Connecticut.
I have a female locked in the underside of a Peter Pan bus. The caller states that she had gotten underneath the bus to get something, and the driver locked her in, and it's en route to Boston. All she can tell me is it's a Peter Pan bus, and the bus was still moving.
The bus had departed New York. police were able to track the 911 call and pinpoint the bus's location on Interstate 84 in Union, Connecticut, near the Massachusetts border. After pulling the bus over, they say they found the woman in the cargo hold, and she claimed the female bus driver had locked her inside while she was trying to retrieve items from her bag. Caroline Van Allen says she was on the bus and saw a woman on the ground after police pulled them over.
There was a man in a pink shirt, for example. He came up and he said, yeah, I heard banging underneath my feet, like repeatedly. We couldn't wrap our minds around it.
She says she recognized the woman had gotten on the bus with them in New York and says the bus had made only one stop in Hartford. It's unclear exactly how long the woman was locked inside the cargo hold. The driver, 49-year-old Wendy Alberti of Brooklyn, has been arrested and charged with reckless endangerment and unlawful restraint.
So the woman who was locked inside the luggage compartment is okay. The driver was held on a $2,000 bond and has been suspended from her job pending the investigation.
So North Korea appears to have conducted another missile launch, its fourth in less than 2 weeks. Let's go across the pond now to Julia McFarland in the London Bureau for more. Good morning, Julia.
Morning, guys. Yes, Kenneth, you're absolutely right. It's the fourth missile test launch in the last fortnight. So why is all this happening? Why is North Korea ramping up its activities? Well, it says it's angry at the joint U.S.-South Korea military exercises. These are the annual Foal Eagle exercises. They properly start on the 11th of August, but preparations began yesterday. In a statement, North Korea's foreign ministry says that given the drills in the south, quote, we are compelled to develop, test and deploy the powerful physical means essential for national defense. North Korea essentially sees these war games as preparations for war.
And Julia, towns near an ammo depot in Siberia had to evacuate after a massive explosion. It really lit up the sky. What do we know right now?
Absolutely stunning pictures here. This is the Siberian city of Achinsk. This military weapons depot, some kind of error led to a lot of the ammunition going off. And what we know so far is that at least 12 people have been injured. A state of emergency has been declared in the local area. Thousands of people in the area have been evacuated. A lot of people in the vicinity, they had to take shelters in bomb shelters. And there's an investigation underway as to trying to figure out how this happened. But the issue, the fear that a lot of people has is that this region is known for wildfires. So when you have this huge tranche of weapons stored, a lot of people are worried about how to contain this.
Wow. A scary moment there, and also a scary moment for British Air. For passengers who were on the flight, apparently there was smoke. Fill that cabin. It was the flight from London to Spain.
Yeah, this sounds really scary. This was a British Airways flight taking off from London Heathrow, Europe's biggest airport, and the plane was just about to land in the Spanish resort town of Valencia. 10 minutes before it was due to land, this happened. A lot of the crew, a lot of the passengers say that there was no announcement from the crew for a while because they were also struggling to speak. A lot of them had gas masks on. The captain, the pilots, they had gas masks on. Shortly before they gave an announcement, basically telling everyone to keep calm. The plane landed, emergency chutes were deployed, and people were basically instructed to run away from the plane as fast as they could. Now, British Airways are looking into what caused the smoke filling the cabin, but thankfully no one was seriously injured, although 3 people were taken to the hospital.
Wow, absolutely terrifying. Well, Julia, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll line it up a bit and check our notifications, starting with a new viral challenge to find your number neighbor. So you send a message to your own phone number with 1-digit change. The last digit, you either go up 1 or down 1. Chat them up. Some people saying they're being brushed off. Others are saying they're finding some great conversations. One man even says that he was able to find a new home for his dog. Incredible. How about the scary moment when a longhorn gets loose on a busy street during a cattle drive? Yep, just ran up into the building right there. And then watch this, though. Suddenly, there's a horse in the mix. Oh, where did the horse come from? Yeah, animals gone wild. Love it. Also going wild, a dad being interviewed as his son made his major league debut. Had to put the interview on hold. Watch this, what happened when his son hit a home run. Very emotional.
in the MLB there.
That went
Eason's
nuts.
family went nuts there. So big congrats to them.
Yeah.
So happy there.
And how about this off the San Diego coast? Whale watchers in for quite a show as that whale breached the water. Not bad.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Hey, and finally, a New Jersey ketchup thief repents after karma caught up with them.
So the crook snatched a ketchup bottle from a Jersey Shore Perkins restaurant a few weeks ago, then came back recently and left 2 bottles of Heinz and a note. It said a few hours after the crime, a car wreck started a string of bad luck. They're hoping returning the ketchup will turn things around. We call that insta karma.
And I say karma will catch up with you.
Bada bing. And that brings us to our question of the day. Have you ever experienced insta karma? You ever done something that you know you shouldn't and then karma caught up with you real quick? Tell us about it in the comments. Tweet us at ABC News Live.
You're asking the folks, so they
No,
want to know.
because I believe wholeheartedly in karma.
Yes.
So I am like, do good. I'm sure, I know that there was a time, there was one time when I was like 16. I don't remember what happened, but I remember driving down the road and thinking, you know what, Janae, that was karma. And ever since then,
Yeah,
I act right.
I definitely believe in that.
The universe will find balance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, coming up, how the wellness industry is going high tech.
And how that could change how you relax in a sauna. After this.
Well, welcome back. Too hot is what so many of us say when we think of those saunas at the gym or the spa.
Not just hot, but steamy, which actually does not work for me. But now infrared technology just might be giving us a better way to loosen up and relax after a stressful day.
Saunas, they've been around for quite some time, centuries in fact, coming in all shapes and sizes. Steam it up or keep it dry. Either way, these days they appear to be getting an upgrade.
I feel like it's the future because I feel like people are starting to pay more attention into how they feel.
Introducing Higher Dose, where high tech is heating up the wellness industry with infrared saunas.
So this is an infrared sauna actually, but it's very different than traditional saunas because it's actually a light therapy.
Higher Dose co-founder Lauren Bellingeri in Brooklyn, New York points out the safe electromagnetic radiation warms the body directly instead of the air around you like traditional saunas.
It's very similar to the sunlight. So it's a much more gentle yet effective way to heat the body.
Higher Dose's other co-founder Katie Capps says they work to perfect the treatment to detoxify, provide pain relief, and boost the immune system.
There's just so much more stress and anxiety in our society today, so it's just that much more important to have tools and therapies.
Higher Dose has nearly a dozen locations in the New York area and has even started selling infrared sauna blankets.
Basically gives you that same high euphoria.
We also have a lot of people that come to us that have Lyme's disease, they're recovering from cancer. All of those things, like the infrared sauna is so good for.
The non-traditional saunas are popping up around the country. The infrared treatment reportedly hot among everyday people and celebrities like Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, and Lady Gaga.
And speaking of traditional saunas, I have to admit, they don't work for me. I don't like them. I feel sick afterwards for some reason.
They're uncomfortable.
What's the difference?
It's a much higher temperature. That's why you feel like, oh, my throat feels like it's burning or my jewelry's on fire. Whereas the infrared sauna, we can heat the body at a much lower temperature, so it's much more gentle.
So of course, I had to try it out.
All right, let's do this.
I immediately felt the heat.
Woo! So how did
Within 60 seconds,
I'm already starting to beat up and sweat.
Came the sweat, and it did not stop.
So I'm pretty sure people don't wear all these clothes in here, but y'all weren't ready for all this if I took this shirt off. Well, on second thought, I'm too busty.
Inside, the aches and pains I had from a workout in the gym a day before slowly went away. And even after a few minutes, this session felt like a workout.
Ooh.
My heart rate started to climb, and that sweat just intensified.
Really feeling it.
But then what Higher Dose founders call those happy chemicals kicked in.
So you actually release a lot of serotonin, dopamine, endorphins while you're in there. So you get all these happy chemicals while you're in there and you feel amazing.
These sessions cost about $45 for 30 minutes, $65 for an hour. You can even bring a friend.
Producer Julie, how long have I been in here? 10 minutes? Oh my God. I am sweating. Look at this. Here's the evidence. Drenched. I got my shimmer on. I feel like I can float away.
Oh, and if you try it, don't forget to hydrate.
Higher dose owners recommend consulting with your doctor if you have concerns or questions about how saunas can impact your health.
Looks like you had a good time.
You know what? I did.
Good time.
All in the name of journalism.
There you go.
They're sweating it out.
Yep. Well, here is what to watch out for today. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine will hold a news conference to discuss the Dayton shooting and his proposal to address gun violence. The governor was drowned out by crowds shouting, "Do something," while speaking at a vigil for the victims over the weekend.
Academy Award-winning filmmaker Guillermo del Toro, director of Pan's Labyrinth, and The Shape of Water will be honored with a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. And tonight is the National Night Out, an annual community building campaign designed to promote police-community partnerships and send a message to criminals that neighborhoods are organized in fighting back.
Plus, don't forget to tune in to The Debrief for an update on all our top stories and The Briefing Room for a breakdown of the latest headlines in politics. So we were able to lighten things up a bit today, but we did bring you new details about the alleged gunmen in those two massacres. But before we go, we want to turn it back and focus on the victims of those two mass shootings.
31 lives, souls that were lost. They should be remembered as more than just a statistic in a headline.
They were mothers, fathers, sons and daughters, friends and loved ones, and we wanted to give our condolences as well.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.